Welcome back, everybody. I just took a short break, grabbed a bite to eat. Let's press through, and what we're going to do is I'm going to show how I pull the main bearing caps out, but I'm also going to show how the plastic gauge crushed. We're going to measure it, then I'm going to clean it, and then I'm going to remove the crank, lube it up, and start the permanent install. A couple of things that I want to point out is that I got rid of the old bolts, and these are the new ones that I'm going to install. Again, they're Elgin EHC 1007S main bearing cap bolt set, made in the United States on 11/1/22. One thing that I did on my side bolts, because I wanted to match what I'm doing with my engine, is I painted the side bolts because I didn't like the color and I wanted to match everything else I'm doing. I'm going to let these set overnight and then I'll install those later. But I'm going to install them the same way that I installed when we were checking the measurements. So let's go ahead, and the first thing that I want to show you is this is the crankshaft position sensor bolt. It is the original bolt. I am going to reuse this, but I want to show how I prepare the bolt, and this is the same exact thing I did with the side mount bolts for painting, because it's going to be visible on the exterior and I want it to look good too. So for that, I use my bench grinder. It's always a good thing too to wear eye safety protection when you're doing this. Notice too that I'm using a pair of vice grips to hold the screw, but I have put padding between the vice grips and the screw so that I don't bother the threads whenever I go to reinstall it. So that is polished. What I think I'm going to do before I paint it is clean the threads as well. I'm going to save that for later. and I'm going to paint this when I paint a second coat on those. And then again, I like to let them set for about 24 hours. And in the next video, I'll show what they look like after they're installed. Another thing that I want to show is how to get your bearing caps out. Now, I've already removed the other ones, but if you notice, there is a little hole right here and right here. You put just a regular handle of a tool on opposite sides and then just gently tap until you feel that you can pull it up by hand. All right. I have already measured everything, but I want to show how to use the plastic gauge measuring. So if you look closely at the crank, you can see where the plastic gauge spread out because everything was tightened down. Now we must be between 25 thousandths of a millimeter, or you can be within a thousandth of an inch. So I want it to match the green line. That's great. And I'll check both sides even though it's the same exact measurement. That looks really good, which means that it's by specification. And again, same thing here, here, and here. It's great. Okay, now that we've verified that all of our bearings and this is mechanically within specifications in accordance with the repair manual, we're going to first, I'm going to remove the crank, but I want to keep it in the position that it is so that I can clean the plastic gauge off. And all you really have to do is just use a clean shop towel, and then again, as I always say, compressed air. Compressed air will get any dust out, and in my case, fur baby hair, which I think it would probably disintegrate in the heat of the engine, but you never know. So take the crank out. You want to do this very carefully. And I'm using this padded with my clean shop towels because I don't want to damage the crank. And the plastic gauge, should rub right off. And if it doesn't, just a touch of cleaner is not going to hurt anything. this does really good. Goof off. Think that I got that online through Amazon or at Walmart, or even both. Yeah, that's doing the trick. So it leaves behind like a sticker material, like if you were removing a sticker from a car. But you want to make sure that you get all, this works great, but you want to make sure that you get all of that off. I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, so goof off. This stuff really works on a lot of things. What I normally like to do with it is mix it a little bit in with water and use like a microfiber towel, and you can clean headliners and vehicles. It works really good and get stains out of the seats. Okay. Now I want to do a quick inspection of the bearings that are in here. I want to take a minute and use compressed air and blow it out, because I'm getting ready to make a final assembly with the crankshaft. So I'm going to first use some air. Well, I'm not sure what that is, so we'll get another towel, a fresh towel. And just wipe down and do a quick inspection. Really awesome. And the coffee filter. Very little. Must be off the crankshaft. But it looks really, really good. Another thing to point out is, as we use the top brackets, the bearing is going to have residue as well. One thing that I read somewhere on this is that you want to avoid touching the bearing surface with your hand. and I just touched it with my hand. It's very stubborn. Okay, I am going to let this set for a second, but I am ready to install the crank. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my gloves on, because I want to be very clean. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to install the crank, and then I'm going to set the center thrust bearing, and that'll be basically the procedure, and I'll show how that's installed, and then I will go ahead and continue.
I've been lost, starving, praying nothing else will go wrong. I guess we're all dying, waiting for the world to lose control. I've been lost, starving, praying nothing else will go wrong. We're all dying, waiting for the world to lose control. Could you tell me what it's really like to feel like you've got the world by your side? Could you tell me what it's really like to feel like you've got the world by your side?
Now on the main, I'm going to oil the side as well, where the thrust bearing is located.
Got the saddest feeling nowadays that all my dreams are much too far away. Sometimes the nights got me aching, working hours in the cold.
Now I want to set my crank.
And I can't imagine how it feels to end up where you feel you had to go. I've been lost, starving, praying nothing else will go wrong.
And as the lube is in the journal, you should be able to turn the crank very easily here. And notice how the engine assembly lube is set up very nice. So I'm going to demonstrate the main bearing of how you put it in, and then it's just basically repeating the procedure that I did in the earlier video. The same torque sequence, the same numbers, it's identical. So I'm not going to bore you with going through that again. Now here's our main. It looks really good, but I want to lube it as well.
I guess we're all dying, waiting for the world to lose control. I'm lost, sobbing, praying nothing else will go wrong. I guess we're all dying, waiting for the world to lose control. Could you tell me what it's really like to feel like you've got the world by your side? Could you tell me what it's really like to feel like you've got the world by your side?
And because this is the thrust bearing, I want to get the sides also. Notice that I only lightly tap with the rubber mallet. Very important to use a rubber mallet. Now that they're back in, I'm going to put the finger tight only. I'm going to put the bolts back in, and then I'll go through the previous procedure. Another thing I like to do with the new ones, these have been cleaned off with solvent. And you have your inner and outer bolts again. These are the inner bolts, and they're the same size. These are just new. And I left the numbers on to help me remember the torquing sequence. All right, again, thanks everybody for stopping in and watching the video. I really appreciate it. I know it takes a long time, but we're getting there, just piece by piece. We'll keep going. So shout out Brian Tooley Racing and Yarnsters 23. Next episode, I'm gonna try to show you a purse that she made, and it is absolutely beautiful. Other than that, thank you, and we'll see you on the next one.